This is my old table saw. It has a couple of problems to it, but a machine like this, it's almost lethal, so you shouldn't really mess around with it doing DIY upgrades. So that's exactly what I'm gonna do. One problem is with this saw blade. It is worn. It's normally an easy operation to replace it with a new blade, but the size of this is a bit strange. It's 205 millimeters in diameter and the center hole is 16 millimeters. The new standard, more or less, is 30 millimeters in the center hole, so you can see much bigger hole on the new one. And this one is also 210, 216, it's also normal. But it is space here for a bigger blade, so that will be fine. But, of course, this holder here that makes sure that the blade fits into the center is not suitable to use with this new blade that I bought. Or actually, I could have used this centerpiece with the new blade. I think I can show you here, if I didn't have this crazy idea. If I was just to use this one, I could add a step-down ring. As you can see here, it's included one. Of course, not the correct one. I think this one steps down to 24 or 26 millimeters. So I could have added a step-down ring to 16, put that in here, and I was ready to go. But you see, my strange project here is that I'm actually not going to cut anything with my table saw this time. I'm just gonna make a groove. And this groove is supposed to be 6 millimeters, maybe 6.5. So what I want to do is use two saw blades, put them together to make it thicker. This is 2.6 millimeter each, so I actually need a bit of a distance as well. I would assume maybe 1 millimeter of a distance, maybe 2, to get the width I would like. So using a whole lot of step-down rings in between of here, and this one, this original one, that will not be safe, because it's not big enough. This part that is extruding here needs to be a lot bigger. I need to make my own adapter that fits for two saw blades. Can my table saw cope running two blades instead of just one? Time will show. First, making this adapter. I have this one, almost the same size, a bit smaller, but I think that will do. So let's start with this. And this beefy piece of metal is 40 millimeters in diameter. I'm gonna shrink it down. Is it really possible to shrink a piece of metal? Well, let's see about that. 30 millimeters is the diameter I want to have. 14 millimeters of hole in the center. And it's just the 15 millimeters at the end here I really need to use for creating the adapter. And I have prepared my Holzman mini lathe to help me with this job. This piece is way too long to be turning on without having support at the end. I probably don't need precision in the thousands of millimeters for this adapter, but you know, I bought this tool, so it's nice to use them. That was not bad at all. Let me just tighten it. And just like that, I have a chamfered hole here. I can take away my chuck and put on this centerpiece, and this will hold my piece in between of these 2 points pretty solid. Then comes the turning. Let's see if this tool is suitable one. And just like that, I have found the 0 position on the piece. I know this is 40 millimeters, and then I can set up my DRO. And a DRO is a digital readout device, so it just shows the position for the X and the Y axis. And just like that, I set it to 40 millimeters as the diameter. And then I could just follow along on this and make sure I get down to 30. Okay, so I'm not totally happy with this setup. Alright, so I'm switching over to a smaller cutting piece here. Let's see if that is better. Yeah, that seems to be a bit better. Better take a new measure of the size here, since I had to switch around with the cutting steel. 39.35. And the biggest job is done. Did it look like a quick and easy job? Well, it is actually quite easy. It's not difficult at all to turn on a lathe. Some hours practice and you're there. But it is time consuming. It's not quick at all. So what you see on YouTube videos, it's all a lie. Everything is sped up. But very fun, that's not a lie. I'm starting with a small drill bit first. I wonder if my first drill bit was a bit funky. I'm not sure what's going on. Let me try go directly on the 14mm drill bit. Quite a challenging job for my mini lathe to drill a 14mm hole. It's, yeah, I think that's about maximum. I also don't have constant cooling, so it gets a bit hot over here. Pouring on oil from my can, but the hole is made. What is also quite challenging, I had trouble with, that is to cut off the part with this kind of cutter that goes directly into the piece you are turning. On aluminium or brass softer material that works fine, but quite challenging, at least with this setup, which is not the most rigid one. So I'm just using the good old bandsaw to cut off this now. So I will end up with a 5mm flange on the thickest side. Even though I got a pretty good surface from the bandsaw, it's not precise enough, I think. So I better go over with the lathe. I made it a bit oversized, so I have a bit more than a millimeter I need to shave off. And that is 6.3 millimeters. So I'll have to cut off 1.3 millimeters. And then, almost done. At least it's time to test it for the first time. But it's still too big, I'm pretty sure, because the inner part here is still not I'm not sure how big it's supposed to be. Then I'm talking about this edge here, where the two saw blades are gonna go. I need to make the spacer that goes in between and then test, see if it even fits. First test, let me see if it fits on the axle. Yes. And then the second test, does it fit for the blade? Yes, it does. And now you can see it sticks out too much. But then again, I want to have a bit of a space in between here. What I need now is to make the spacer. And I'm not sure really either. Should I make it big or small or something in between? I am a bit concerned about putting on two saw blades on my table, so it isn't that big. Can the motor cope with it? Is it powerful enough? Will it start vibrating? So putting on a small spacer in between of the saw blade will at least not add on more weight than I need. A bigger spacer in between will be, yeah, more like putting on 3 saw blades, make it even heavier. So yeah, I think I will try to build just a small spacer, more like a washer in between of the blades first. And I have actually found this sheet of aluminium. It isn't really heavy at all. Cutting out a piece of this one, it's 1.4 millimeters. That will make the total width of the saw blade 5.9. It's a bit less than what I'm aiming for, but I assume the precision will not be perfect, so I guess the cut will be a bit wider than 6 millimeters, even though they theoretically will be 5.9. Well, I will cut down a piece of this and make a washer. Should be pretty simple. This sheet of aluminium is very easy to cut with a metal scissor, but it typically bends the metal slightly, so I'm using my angle grinder here. And then it's just to cut away the corners so it looks like a washer. Yeah, I should have known. Aluminium is an excellent heat conductor. It gets glowing hot straight away. And then testing the first assembly. First the adapter, then one saw blade. Then the washer or the spacer and the second saw blade. And this piece now extruding out from the blade should be 1 millimeter, and it is measured to 4. So I need to slice off 3 millimeters of this adapter. And then it's time for the test assembly for the first time. I think the new adapter looks pretty nice. It fits well. And the first blade is put on. Then when it comes to the spacer, not not too happy with it. And when I think of it, this is the outer piece, the clamp that goes to the nut, and the spacer really should at least be as big as this one. So I made a new one. Exact same way of fabricating it, just a bit bigger. I think that is a bit better. I'm not sure if it matters, but it feels like the right thing to just align the blades so they go exactly in parallel. Okay, first problem already. I can see it's touching, yeah, the blade is only 5 millimeters bigger now in diameter, and I've shifted the center 1.5 millimeters closer to that side. So to my knowledge, I'm not using that part of the bracket, so I think I can easily just chop it off. I'm using a fire blanket when I am grinding off stuff close to bearings, and yeah, I don't want to damage more than I need. All right, and then that problem seems to be taken care of. Next job then is just to power it on, see how it goes. There is a protection cover that should be put on here against the saw blade. So yeah, I will wait a bit so I can inspect how it goes before I put it on. And yeah, it does look a bit dangerous, so I have bought some specific protection gear for this job. Not taking any risk. I will try to keep my distance as well on the first run and be prepared to just pull out the power cord if anything goes wrong, any vibration, any strange noises. Yeah, you can't be too careful, can you, when you're doing DIY jobs like this on stuff you probably should never have touched. So yeah, please just wish me luck. Let's see how this goes. I gotta say, this looks like success. Let me measure the channel I cut out. I don't even get what's all the fuss about. This was totally a success. And why am I making this modification to my bandsaw? Well, I'm actually gonna cut almost 200 meters of this groove yeah, I have quite a big job ahead. And it absolutely looks like a table saw like this can cope with this mod. And the only thing remaining is to put on this cover here on this side. Pretty easy task. I just couldn't be happier, could I? This was fun. Hope you had a good time as well, and hope to see you back later. Yes.